Hello, everyone. So this is going to be one of my shorter lives, hopefully, because not hopefully, because Reem is going live um, in like 50 or so minutes. But I've been having some dreams lately. I feel like there was a hot second where I wasn't dreaming, um, but that's over. And it's been these dreams. Like I'll have dreams where a certain theme or a phrase will be repeated over and over and over. And like I'll know while I'm dreaming, like, oh, it's for me to remember this. But I wake up and I'm not remembering. But last night I had a dream that there were some people meeting to make some kind of decision, and I gathered people to be present. I mixed the wild unknown animal spirits and tarot to take part. And I don't even remember what it was that they were discussing, but I remember it affected people, and it was like late. So, hey Holly, how you doing? So it was like there were people, like the people who were making the decision. There were people who were like making a decision or pleading a case, and then there were people who were like the jury or whatever. And I remember the two people who were making the decision, like they had to make a decision for a lot of people who weren't there, but they were like representative of those people. But anyway, the decision had to be made or had to be watched um, and like evaluated for soundness or whatever. I don't know. And so I was gathering people to like witness, but I guess I couldn't gather anybody who was actually being represented by the people making the choice that like the people who it would affect or whatever. And then I had another dream, and there were like these rings of water. The only part of the dream I remember is like there are these rings of water, and some of them were like intertwined. And there was something about how there were things that couldn't be used before, or like we didn't know what the use for the things were. But now with these rings of water, something was different so that they could do whatever they were supposed to do. And it was almost an Ace of Cups energy, um, where it was like earth that came out of the water, and it was like overflowing or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember. It was a weird dream. But anyway, I just wanted to mix these together and see if anything comes out because why not? I just saw the Moth. And I grabbed the Animal Spirits book so I can actually read it. With some of these animals that I just don't know. And these are like almost all animals. So the moth, the moth, the owl, and the spider. It's two air and one earth. The moth, the owl, and then the spider. The moth is a card of transformation, but like nocturnal transformations. It's the papillon de nuit, right? I don't know if I'm probably butchering that, but I remember Russell and the papillon de nuit when he was in France and the street lights and how um, that was a thing. The lady with the moth hat. So I'm glad to hear it. My Christmas was it was good. It wasn't what it used to be, but also, I'm not like 5 anymore. So, or like 12. So it's different. And, circumstances are what they are. Um, but it was good. I enjoyed it. I'm glad to hear you did too. The moth and the owl, though, the moth carries an energy of transformation within the dark. And I feel like the owl comes after. Like we don't even see it when it happens necessarily. Let's go to air. I'm gonna read these. The moth is impulsive, hasty, and wishful. I guess that's all I'm going to read because I don't feel like reading the whole thing because this is several. The owl is abundance, clairvoyant, and treasures. The spider speaks to an interconnectedness. And I didn't watch Spider Man No Way Home because I'm not like I was invited to go with my mom and my brother, and I was gonna go, but then they went to a later show and I had to work, and I was like, I'm not that into Spider Man. I can miss it. I was only gonna go for the popcorn. Uh, but I've been watching a lot of videos on YouTube, and they said that I saw in one video, I think it was in a comic or whatever, that the Spidey sense that Spider Man has is like he's connected to some great cosmic web. And his spidey sense is basically like something on that web doing something. And that energy is here as well. So this carries an energy. It's like because one thing has changed and transformed, it signals another. And maybe it's something that's been waiting for this transformation to happen. Now the otter is at the bottom of the deck. But the next card out is Death and the Mother of Pinnacles. Now, this is a transformation in like the space of Cardinal Earth. Oh, this is literally like Pluto and Capricorn. Cardinal Earth, Capricorn, Death, Pluto, Scorpio. There you go. Scorpio and Capricorn sextile. And so I feel like it goes back to this Moth card. It's almost like once certain things, it's like once a true transformation has taken place on some level, then the like we're different. And the way that we interact with the world is different. The way we look at the world is different. Our perspective changes in some way. And it's that change in perspective that allows us to see or feel different tremors on the cosmic web that gets us like down different paths. And it's like an increase in sensitivity. The next card is the Earthworm. And then the Gazelle. Shout out to Miss Remy Healings. The Earthworm carries a subterranean energy, which is interesting because we view Earth as like fixed or kind of static. Hey, kizzy cat, kizzy cat, kizzy cat. I need to like. Oh, the moon will be in Scorpio tomorrow. I didn't know that. I don't know where the. I was just thinking last night because I went outside a little bit later. And I was like, "Where's the moon?" Like, I know we're in Capricorn season. Like, is it like? Can I see the moon? Are we closer to a new moon or a full moon? I think we just had a new moon. I don't know. I used to track the transits and stuff, but I'm clueless now. It's fine. There are enough people that I see, watch, or talk to on the internet who keeps track of all that stuff. Um, but it's almost like the element of Earth actually happens underground, but we only have like an above terranean, a supraterranean viewing and understanding of Earth. But there's something also here about what nourishes and fertilizes that which we see above ground. And it's something about like aerating the soil, creating these tunnels and passageways through the earth. And there's something not geothermal, but there's some geo related phenomena. It's like things that happen within the earth that maintains a certain homeostatic environment. We're heading towards the new moon. Gotcha. I was like, what? So we just had a full moon. Oh yeah, it was the full moon in Gemini. Okay, I remember now. The card after that is the Gazelle, which is actually fire instead of earth, but that makes sense because we don't really have fire creatures. We got creatures in the desert and hot places. I guess that's interesting though. We have water creatures, we have air creatures, we have earth creatures, but we don't really have fire creatures. And it does remind me, since it's the Ream card, of the white gazelle that's like near extinction or it's like endangered or something, right? So it's almost like there's this whole element that we know about that we utilize, but nothing lives there. And I'm not sure what that means. These are similar. Now I'm we're not going there. It's fine. Oh wow. Capricorn moon is intense though. Because the moon is at fall in Capricorn, right? Since it's at home in Cancer. So what a way to begin and end the year. Somebody on Facebook was like, Earth signs are the best because we start and end the year in an Earth sign, and then she was like, water signs could never. Her sister's a water sign. But somebody was like, you gotta begin and end the year on a low note. Anyway, that just reminded me of that. It was funny. Watching them go back and forth, it was hilarious. Maybe there's an energy with the fire here. It's an energy of like life force, lifeblood. Going back to like all the geothermal stuff, because it's like the magma or the molten core is the lifeblood of the earth. And it's because of that like the, the temperature stays within a certain range or whatever. And it is very like plasma, but like moving plasma. And it's like the generation of some kind of electromagnetic field because there's plasma that's rotating and something about another phase of matter. I think I saw something where there's like a bunch of phases of matter or something like that. I don't know. But it's like we got solid, liquid, gas, and then plasma. So it's almost like there's a sun or a solar energy contained within the earth outside of like the solid iron or whatever core. There's like the molten core and then the solid core, and the molten core spins around the solid core. And I guess these are two sort of like core ish frequencies or energies with these circles. And maybe that's why Earth is a planet that is capable of sustaining life. Because there's like the external sun that gives the plants and stuff their energy. And then there's the what's the word for sky? I think it's like Kylum in Latin. Like there's the Kylian sky. the Kylumian sky, and then the subterranean sky, sun, and then the subterranean sun. And it's the subterranean sun that like keeps the like below the earth at a certain temperature in certain places of the world, because in the tundra it's cold, so it's gonna freeze. But more like equatorial. Is that equator? Equatorial, that's the word, right? It's like it's this internal, hold it. One second. I'm going to eat lunch with my grandma because those dinner prices were outrageous. We're going to the hibachi. Um, so it's like there's one on the outside and there's one on the inside, and that's what helps sustain life on Earth. And it's almost like that's why Earth is capable of sustaining life, is because it has an internal sun that is its molten core. Now, I don't know if the molten core is plasma or whatever. $2 signs, more like three at dinner. Sorry. like, like $4 signs at dinner. Here we go. 11 to 2:30, Monday to Friday. Okay. Yeah. I love my grandma. We just go eat. She's a Taurus. So her Taurus, I actually share a few placements with my grandma. I think we have like the same Venus. Like both of our Venuses are in Aries. And I think my Taurus moon is where her Taurus sun is. Um, and it's funny how it worked out because, like, so her Taurus sun is my Taurus moon. And then my youngest brother's Taurus sun is my Taurus rising, like to the degree. And then I share a Venus placement with my grandma. Um, but yeah, anyway. So that's whatever this energy is. And then we have the Six of Swords. See, this is like low key. I didn't want to say it because, but with this energy, how I was talking about how this is an endangered or near extinct or extinct energy with the white gazelle, and how we don't really have creatures of the element of fire. The closest thing we can do is like creatures that live in hot places like the desert, but the desert is still land, right? Creatures of the air aren't like on mountains, and creatures of the water aren't like around bodies of water. They're actually in the water. Creatures of air are in the air. We don't have anything in the fire. And then with both of these, like with this earthworm energy holding this globe and this one, it was a little bit of a like what you call them, the creatures that live under the surface or whatever, or like the journey to the center of the world, where I've never seen it, but I think it's like where they go through some kind of hole and then they find out like, oh my gosh, under the surface there's like an entire biome, like stuff lives there, or what, they still got dinosaurs down there or whatever. I don't know. And it kind of sort of like with this kind of sort of does feel like that, like there's this entire ecosystem under whatever we see. But and then we have the hyena and the zebra ending it. We don't have any creatures of water here. We got air and the moth and the owl, earth and the spider, and the earthworm, and fire in the gazelle, hyena, and zebra. Now the Six of Swords is here, and it implies water. It has an element of water to it. And Scorpio, being death, is a water sign, but it's scorpionic energy. It's not the element necessarily. So there's no water here, but the bottom of the deck is the otter, which is water. Honestly, I feel like after the gazelle, this it enters a territory that I don't even know. I'm like, what is this? I think the zebra and the hyena, they give almost the polarity on integration. Like the hyena is two separate things, and the zebra is two separate things that coexist in a harmony within oneself. Like this is a polarized self, this is an integrated self. And they all have the same parts, but it's just like, they're more seamlessly integrated here. And I guess before this, I was thinking about how, and I've talked about it before, but I had this whole whatever around self, and when was it with the dark whatever. I didn't, because I know what triggered that. I don't even remember. First I was talking to Russ about it, and I thought I was good, and then I wasn't, and then I talked to Corey about it, and it took a minute, and it happened like I didn't even realize that it happened. By the time it had happened, it had just sort of happened one day, and I was like, I shouldn't be surprised. um I shouldn't be surprised that it, like, this level of integration or whatever happened. This level of like self acceptance, honestly, that's what it is. Is self acceptance, that it happened when like I had the intention of it happening, but up until a certain point, like every time certain things would come to the surface, it'd be like, oof, like let's repress that. Let's turn that one down. Let's turn it down. um My grandma's done found the emojis. She found the emojis a while ago. Um, I don't think it's necessarily higher self and lower self though. And the reason why I say that, it's because there's nothing about the self, at least in this context, there's nothing about the self that's inherently lower. Like it isn't this is lower than that and that is higher than this. It's how we view it. It's almost like if there's an element of like guilt or shame, or if whatever, why ever we see a certain part of ourselves as however we see it, that's what causes it to be like the lower self. And that's why zebra energy, it's like, this isn't higher or lower, it's me. And it goes back to like the pile too, where it's like a conversation. It's because there's no conflict within the self. There's no conflict within the self here, and there's lots of conflict within the self here. That's why like this moon is polarized. And in the absence of conflict with the self, there's something that arises. It's almost like, is there an otter moon? Because like this would be the moon for the zebra, while like this is the moon for the hyena type of energy. And maybe that's the Six of Swords energy. It makes room for something to come about within the emotional space, or within the space of like emotion and connection in the watery realm, but it's not water. In this case, in the Six of Swords, it's air. And it almost reminds me of the dream where it's like there were these rings of water or whatever, but the things that came out of it weren't water. But it's like it was within that space. And so fire is the lifeblood of the planet, like water is the lifeblood of the things that live on the planet. And temperance was the card that came out for the thumbnail, and that's the balance of water and fire. And so somewhere in here, probably in the zebra hyena, or maybe it's in the spider. It's almost like once we get in that interconnected web of consciousness or whatever, when we can get to ourselves without that conflict or tension, then we can connect better, more effortlessly or easily to everything else. But it's like a lived space. So it's not like you go into a meditation and then you're connected to the all. You're connected to everything in a meditation. It's lived. Like this zebra energy, like the zebra isn't only the zebra when it's asleep. The zebra is always the zebra, no matter what the zebra is doing. Even if a zebra came out like all black, or if a zebra came out all white, it'd still be a zebra. You know what I mean? It might not look like it because we associate the zebra with like, oh, like we associate tigers. But if for some reason it came out with a pigmentation that was different, it would still be what it is. Um, and so there is almost this energy of like when we enter those darker spaces, and they're dark because they're subterranean. They're like below the foundation. They're below everything that's seen. The not the tip of the iceberg, right? Like the submerged part of the iceberg. Um, when we enter those spaces, it's almost like that's where we're met. So if you're going deeper, you're met deeper, right? Like the core, the closer we get to the core of the earth, the element of fire, the lifeblood of the earth, the closer we get to the core of the person, the water. It's like the essence versus the soul. The soul is like the universal expression. The essence is the soul is the universal identifier. The essence is the expression of that identity, or it's the identity where the soul is like the identifier. It's the expression of the identity. You know what I mean? But it's like we're met on those more subconscious levels. And so if we haven't explored ourselves to the degree at which we try to tap into something else, then we don't even know. It's like being in a conversation and not even knowing what you're saying. It's like you're moving your mouth, but you can't hear the words that come out of it and you don't know what you're saying. Cause like even on the surface, like even if I'm not like even if I'm not talking, that connection between my brain and my mouth is still there. So even if I can't hear myself, like if you're at a concert, like you know what you're saying because there's that consciousness, there's that conscious element there. But as you go deeper and deeper, it's almost like at some point the rope snaps and we're not even conscious of what we say, do, think, feel, whatever. And that's not like new. That's not surprising. Like, but it's almost like, well, that's the level that this web is at. So whenever we do anything to affect the world around us, this is the level it's met at. So that's how, we can get those times where like we manifest things that we don't really want, or we it's almost like a genie energy, like the genie who like the monkey's paw, but it's like we're the genie because we're not aware of all of the things that we're not aware of how we truly feel on a more core level, that we actually put that into the conversation and we're not even aware of it. So when it comes back, we're like, oh my gosh. It's almost like that saying, and wine and truth and in childhood, and wine and anger and in childhood there is always truth. Almost. And it reminds me of the ancient word that stirs ancient things to life, whispered. Um, because that's where, again, it's like this, that's the space where most of the conversation happens. That's why the owl is in the dark. And even this, like, this is the element of fire, but for us, it's water. Us, everybody is wired different. So, so for you, it might be fire. I don't know. That's why I did that one reading, because, like, I was like, well, water is water for everybody, and fire is fire, and earth is earth, and air is air. Apparently, that is not the case. But anyway, in a general sense, like all of this energy, I feel like it is the element of water, but it's not water in the way that water is to us. It's almost like an apples and oranges type of thing. So like this is fire because externally that's what it is. It's like why we need sometimes, or most of the time, why we need something outside of ourselves to see inside of ourselves. But when it's outside, it comes and it happens in a different way. And temperance is that mirrored, like when it happens out here, it happens in here. But it may not necessarily be like an element for element, like tit for tat, like extremely obvious thing. But again, it makes sense, especially if we're coming into a place of deeper and deeper transformation with Pluto and Capricorn. If something shifts below the earth, we don't know it until the plants are different, or like until there's a tremor, right? Because the plates are always moving, but we only feel the movement of the tectonic plates when they collide, and then there's like an earthquake or something. But that's why this earthworm energy is like, is doing something. I wanted to use the, oh yeah, I'll use them, the water known archetypes. I saw a video last night and the person pulled out the cave and there were like eyes in the cave. I was like, what? I've never noticed those eyes before. So keeping up with the Kim crayons thing, or the Kim crayon. Let's see. And I think that's, and like again, like it's not shocking or surprising or new, but that's what we've had the opportunity to explore, especially within the past 2 years. Is those deeper, more subterranean, like what we really think, how we really feel, and being able or not being able to be as easily distracted by it. But at the same time, like so much has been happening that it's not necessarily conducive. Oh my gosh. You remember how I was like, I saw this video yesterday and the cave came out? Like the cave literally just came out. And there are like these two eyes in the cave right here. And I had never seen them before. I was like, what? So the cave is the where, Can I get the what? Okay. So the who, or the aspect of self, there's actually three of them: the starborn, the sustainer, and the mother. Look, there's like egg, and it's like it kind of looks like that's the egg there. It's very Lux ex tenebris, from darkness light energy. And that's the same thing here. Because the moth is like from darkness into the light. And so there is almost, because there's with the otter moon and the six of swords energy, there is it's an energy of like pulling something up. So it's like we're diving in to the unknown to come out. And then when we come out, we bring something with us. It's just like how, people go down and they look for sunken treasure or whatever. If you've ever played Wind Waker, The Legend of Zelda, it's like when you get that claw thing and you go down and you grab the treasure and then you pull it up, right? And you're on a boat when that happens. So there is a certain amount of emotional stability, I guess, or a certain amount of stability within the watery realm that's required at the surface level to like dig that deep and to pull it back up. Because after you hook onto it, like it changes the balance of weight or whatever. And like when you're lifting it up, you don't want the boat to tip over into the water, right? And so that's why there is a lot of like, even with the spider energy, that's why there's a lot of caution when it comes to like, it's very delicate. But it seemed like within the past 2 years, it was like screw being delicate, screw taking it slow. We ain't got time for that. Let's just do it. And so a lot of boats are, capsized, or people fell into the water. And that's fine, because it's like we all need things differently. And it depends on where we are and how we are and what we need where we are, um, to get to where we're going. And it feels like after a certain point, like the zebra can become the hyena, but still be the zebra. And in that, it's like without the internal conflict, that zebra integrated energy can be both sides of the hyena and it not be at war with itself. And it's almost like it's like that motherly love. Hey Twitty, how you doing? It's like that motherly love, like the mother can be anything that the child needs. And it's like even if a mother is fighting, like she's doing it out of love. When a mother is feeding, she's doing it out of love. When a mother is holding, she's doing it out of love. When a mother is scolding, she's doing it out of love. Like it's all love from the mother. No matter what action the mother is sort of like performing, it all comes from the singular space or the singular point of love. It's just expressed in different ways depending on the situation. And I think for a non-zebra hyena energy, sometimes it's hard to um especially like in other people, because it's easier to be judged. Well, I mean, we can judge ourselves just as harshly, so maybe not easier. Um, but it's like we don't really necessarily allow for a multiplicity or a multifacetedness. And maybe that's because of our need to like categorize things or to know certain things. And it's like, oh, well, if it's doing this, then that means it's this. And it's like, yeah, but not necessarily. Because the motivations, a person's motivations and intentions and stuff like that, regardless of how good we are at reading people, they're subterranean, they're submersed. It's below the surface on that iceberg. And even in ourselves, again, like, oh no, you're fine. I'm gonna be there too. So oh snap, it's in like 10 minutes. I'm gonna be there as well. Um, but maybe that's how we get to zebra energy. It's because within the self we go that deep. And I guess that's one thing that's occurred over the past 6 months that I didn't. I think one thing that I've discovered about myself is that like I don't consider myself to be judgmental. And that might be surprising, it might not be. But I do like meet people where they are. It's like if you tell me or show me that you're a certain type of way, then I'm gonna believe you, regardless of what I see. Um, it's just like matter of fact. Like it's not a judgment. It just is what it is. Right. Like I'm fat. That's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It just is. Now, does it come with a variety of health risks? Yeah, in that way. But like just me saying like I'm fat, that's not me like, this ain't skinny. So it is what it is. There's no judgment behind it unless judgment is put into it. It just is what it is. And I already forgot where I was going with that. Um, oh yeah, but I feel like I've seen like ways in which I kind of sort of, not that I necessarily was judgmental in a judgy way, but in a way of like, oof, like those are some choices that you made, and I don't want to have to reap the repercussions of those choices. That's the life you want. You can have it. I'm gonna go over here. You can have all that. Um, but in that way, I guess there are a lot of reasons, motivations, factors behind why people make the choices that they make, or how people fall into the situations and circumstances that they fall into. Um, I guess within the past year, actually, and I've been like learning to be more compassionate, I guess, rather than being like, that's a choice you made. Like you made your bed, now you're gonna lie in it. And nobody else made that bed for you. Nobody else made those choices and decisions. You made them. And now I can be a little bit more compassionate. I mean, in a way that I always was, but in a way that I wasn't at the same time. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I was compassionate sometimes in a watery way, sometimes in an airy way, but maybe not necessarily both. And that's something that I've learned. But at the same time, it doesn't change the fact that, we all make choices and decisions comes with consequences. Causes have effects. And, regardless of the fact that we as humans do our best to mitigate effects to certain causes, there are effects and repercussions and consequences. And maybe it's because we do so much to try to mitigate negative effects and repercussions and consequences that we also negate positive ones, because our relationship between cause and effect has been strained. And I think that's another energy that zebra is able to sort of like hold. That hyena would be like, I want to be on the dark side of the moon, but only experience moon things, or I want to be on the light side of the moon and only experience the dark side of the moon. It's like that cause and effect relationship is broken somewhere. But with the mother and the starborn and the sustainer, to wrap this up, again with the cave, it all goes back to this spider energy, how it's all connected. Like we nurture within self, and everything outside of self is nurtured. It may not necessarily be a one for one, because the lifeblood of the earth is fire, the lifeblood of the man and the plant and anything organic, most things organic, is water. And when it comes to water, the strength of water is its ability to break things down, to dissolve things. And it allows the water to carry things where they need to go, or to hold things for as long as it needs to until it reaches its destination. And air can do that in a way. I don't know. The element of fire is a mystery in this, but it's natural. So, with all of that being said, I hope y'all have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. And I hope that you're able to meet yourself wherever you need to meet yourself to meet the world where you want to meet the world. Because I would hate for anyone to experience or begin experiencing what it is that they truly desire only for it to fall apart. And I would hate even more for that person to realize that they are the reason why it fell apart. I guess I would hate the most if like they beat themselves up and then they fall into a thing that they don't come out of, rather than taking that as like, oh, so like this is something I need to work on, so that the next time something good comes along, I can actually enjoy it. And I don't push it away, I don't sabotage it, I don't run from it, I don't question it. And it's going to be a process, of course. Nothing is necessarily immediate. Um, but I think sometimes with a certain willingness, things happen a lot quicker than we would necessarily think. So, thank you all for being here. See you at Remy's, Miss Remy Healings. Bye.